CI just failed on main because a hotfix commit included a file that shouldn't exist there, payment retry service Java. The developer never meant to commit it. It was an untracked file that followed them from another branch. Let's break down Git Stash. Save and restore work in progress, how it works, and the exact mistake behind that failure. Git Stash temporarily shelves uncommitted changes, restoring your working directory to match the last commit. This lets you switch branches, apply a hotfix, or start a different task without committing half-finished work. The stash lives as a stack of commits in Git ref stash and its ref log, not in any remote, meaning it's purely local and ephemeral by design. The core commands are straightforward. Git stash push saves your changes with a label. Git stash list shows all saved stashes. Git stash pop restores the latest stash and removes it from the stack. Git stash apply restores without removing. And critically, Git stash u includes untracked files. Here's a basic example. We initialize a repo, make changes to a tracked file, and create a new untracked file. First, we stash without u, notice untracked, txt remains. Then we stash with u, and now everything is clean. We list stashes, pop the latest, and also see how to apply and then drop manually. The difference between pop and apply matters more than most tutorials let on. Git stash pop applies the stash and immediately removes it from the stack. Git stash apply applies it but leaves it in the stack. The critical behavior: if git stash pop encounters a conflict, it still removes the stash from the stack before throwing the conflict. You're now in a conflicted state with the stash gone. Use apply when there's any chance of conflicts. Here's how to use apply safely. If you might have conflicts, use git stash apply. If it applies cleanly, then manually drop. If there are conflicts, resolve them, then drop. You can also apply the same stash to multiple branches. And finally, git stash clear is nuclear, use with care. Sometimes you only want a stash part of your changes. Git stash push path stashes only the specified files. Git stash push p drops you into an interactive hunk-by-hunk selection. And git stash branch converts a long-lived stash into a proper branch. Here's how to stash specific files. Use git stash push path. For multiple files, list them. Interactive patch mode with p lets you choose which hunks to stash. And git stash branch converts a stash into a proper branch, which is useful for long-lived stashes. Junior devs sometimes treat git stash like a magical undo button. It's not. Git reset hard throws away your working directory changes permanently. That's the nuclear option. Git stash temporarily shelves changes so you can pick them up later. That's the snooze button. Reset is for committed history surgery. Stash is for uncommitted work in progress. Here's a real-world scenario. You're refactoring payment API and need to fix a P1 bug. The wrong way is to use git reset hard, which destroys all your refactoring work. The right way is to stash your changes, fix the bug on main, then pop the stash when you return. Every stash is a commit object, not a temp file, not a config entry. A real bona fide git commit with a parent tree. Look inside git ref stash and you'll find a SHA. Run git log one-line stash at 0 and you'll see a commit history of your stashes. Stashes are purely local, no remote, no backup, no safety net. Here's how to visualize stash commits. Git log one-line graph stash at 0 shows the three-parent structure. You can diff a specific file from a stash, and git stash branch creates a permanent branch from a stash. Stashing is a safety net, not a workflow crutch. Always label stashes with git stash push m description. Use u to include untracked files. Prefer apply over pop when conflicts are possible. And don't keep stashes older than a few days. Convert them to branches if they matter. This is the same issue we highlighted at the start. Here's exactly why that happened. The developer was working on feature payment retry and created payment retry service Java, but hadn't run git add. They ran git stash without u, so the untracked file stayed. When they switched to main, the file followed. During the hotfix, they ran git add, which staged the orphaned file, and it was committed to main, causing CI to fail on compilation errors. The root cause is that git stash by default does not include untracked files. When the developer stashed without u, the untracked payment retry service Java remained in the working directory and followed the branch switch to main, where it was accidentally committed. The fix was to revert the offending commit on main using git revert. The developer switched back to the feature branch and stashed correctly with git stash push WIP, payment retry service. The team added a rule to never run git add on main and added a pre-commit hook to warn when new files are staged on main. This is the exact mistake from the incident. By default, Git Stash does not include untracked files. If you have new files that haven't been git added, they stay in your working directory and follow you across branches. Always use Git Stash, when you have untracked files. By default, Git Stash only stashes tracked files. If you have new files that haven't been git added, they stay in your working directory. When you switch branches, those files come with you, potentially causing unintended commits on the wrong branch. If you use git stash pop and it hits a merge conflict, the stash is removed from the stack before you resolve the conflict. You're left in a conflicted state with no stash backup. Always use apply when there's any chance of conflict. Stash entries are stored in the reflog and are subject to GC. Reflog expire, default 90 days, and GC. Reflog expire unreachable, default 30 days. After that, Git GC may permanently delete them. For long-lived work, convert the stash to a branch with Git Stash branch. If you accidentally git stash drop or git stash clear, you can recover the stash commit from the reflog before garbage collection. Use git reflog show stash to find the commit hash, then git stash apply hash to restore it. Git stash does not stash changes in submodules unless you use recurse submodules. Without this flag, modified submodules remain dirty when you switch branches, potentially causing build failures or unintended commits. Use git stash push recurse submodules to include submodule changes. If you lose a stash due to pop on conflict, you can recover it via reflog. Use git fsck noreflog's grep dangling to find dangling commit objects. Then apply with git stash apply hash. To search stashes, use git stash show p grep. Prevention is key. Use apply instead of pop. Let's run through some common interview questions. What is the difference between git stash pop and git stash apply? Pop removes the stash after applying. Apply keeps it. Use apply when conflicts are possible. Does git stash save untracked files by default? No, only tracked files. Use or include untracked to include them. How can you recover a lost stash after git stash pop with conflicts? Use git fsck noreflog's grep dangling to find the stash commit, then git stash apply hash. And a few frequently asked questions. What is the difference between git stash pop and git stash apply? Pop removes the stash after applying, apply keeps it. Use apply when conflicts are possible. Does git stash save untracked files? No, by default only tracked files. Use git stash to include untracked files. How do I recover a lost stash? Use git fsck noreflog's grep dangling to find the stash commit, then git stash apply hash. Let's recap. Always add a message to your stashes. Use git stash to include untracked files. Prefer git stash apply over pop when conflicts are possible. Stashes are global to the repo, not scope to a branch. And if a stash survives more than a few days, convert it to a branch. Ready to go deeper? Up next, Git cherry pick. Apply commits across branches, then git reset. Hard, soft, and mixed explained, then git fetch versus pull. What's the difference? Find them all at TheCodeForge.io. Thanks for watching. The full article and code examples are covered in detail at TheCodeForge.io.